We now began to discuss the concluding part, the concluding tefillah of Pesukei Zimra of Yishtabach. It's important to give it its proper halachic context. First of all, let's remember that as Rav Schwab, and we mentioned this a number of times, Rav Schwab points out at the beginning of his book on prayer that the structure of our davening is organized like we're walking through the Beis HaMikdash. We start all the way with the Ezras Nashim outside of the Beis HaMikdash and eventually get all the way into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is Shmona Esrei. And within Yishtabach, we are making a transition. We're moving from the Ulam now already into the Heichal. And with this transition, we begin by, of course, praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But what Yishtabach does is that it concludes Pesukei Zimra. We know that it concludes with 15 expressions of praise, 15 different unique, distinct expressions of Shevach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as the Das Kenim and the Avudram explain whether this is corresponding to the Shir HaMalos, the 15 steps in the Beis HaMikdash, as we're talking about, that where the Levium stood in between the Ezras Nashim and the Ezras Yisrael, where they would sing their song. There's 15 expressions of Hodu in Halal Hagadol. There's 15 expressions of praise of Emes V'Yatziv. There's 15 steps of Dayenu. There's 15 words in Birchas Kohanim. There's a lot of discussion about the 15. But let's just understand a little bit about the end of Pesukei Zimra. Pesukei Zimra began with the bracha of Baruch She'amar, and it ends with this bracha of Yishtabach. So even though what might take us 5, 7, 10, 15 minutes, on Shabbos 20 minutes, in reality, this is part of one bracha. And that has several very important halachic ramifications. Number one, Yishtabach is always next to Baruch She'amar. So therefore, it does not start with Baruch. It is what's called a bracha smucha lechaverta. As the Rif and the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch paskin, it is one big bracha. Number two, you can't really say Yishtabach on its own. What happens if you mistakenly forgot Baruch She'amar? And you only remember it after you've already finished Pesukei Zimra, can you say Yishtabach? It seems that you cannot. The Shulchan Aruch seems to paskin that if I forgot Baruch She'amar, I have to go back and say it, because I can't have Yishtabach without Baruch She'amar. It's part of that one big bracha. And a very interesting halacha is that you really shouldn't interrupt before Yishtabach. Meaning, if I've gotten to Yishtabach and the Chazan isn't there yet, I got there very early, I've davened everything very slowly, but the Chazan's not there yet. What should I do? Now, a Chazan can wait because, if he's waiting for a minyan or for the Kaddish, but a person who gets there really should say Yishtabach on their own so that it concludes Pesukei Zimra. And in the conclusion of this Pesukei Zimra, that will transition us to the next phase, the next stage of their Berchos Kriyas Shema. We go through, we say these 15 brachos. Very interesting whether or not the 15 praises should be said in Neshima Achas with one breath, like we do with this 10 sons of Haman, when we blow the shofar, the Shlah, Kadosh Paskin, it should be said all together. But the Chida and the Vilna Gaon and Paskin by the Mishnah Brura says, no. Each one should be its own separate, unique, special praise. So as we go through Yishtabach, we should understand what the words are to properly express the right praise to Hashem.